Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, I love talking all things reality TV, and today we are finally back with Shark Tank Season 16 recaps. Today we are on Episode 8. Our sharks for the episode are Daniel, Kevin, Lori, Mark, and Robert, and this is your reminder that Daniel Lubinsky is no longer a guest shark. He is just a standard shark now, so he's just in there like the rest of them. Our first pitch of the night is BroGlo. Tom, Jaren, and Joe walked into the tank looking for $200,000 for 5% of their self-tanner for men. Here it is. As you can see, it is self-tanner and other grooming supplies marketed directly toward men. One of the founders even decided to put half of the self-tanner on him to show the effectiveness of it, and I had to show y'all because hilarious. Their other big marketing points, besides just being for men, are the fact that it goes on clear and that they have a clean ingredient formula. They say their standard starter kit costs them $6.96 to make, and it retails for $59. And like I always do, I went on their website to go look to see if the price increased or decreased or any of that. And once again, we have one of those companies that does the, oh, it's on sale for $59, but usually it's $66. And this time I decided to be a little extra, and I went on the Wayback Machine to see if it is just always on sale like this. There weren't a lot of captures of this, obviously, but I went to 3 different captures in 2024. It was like September, June, and July, and every single time it was usually $66, but on sale for $59. And I just don't think the odds that it happened to capture on times that they happen to have it on sale for this, I don't think that really makes sense. Also, the fact that they say it retails for $59 in the tank, that should just tell you what you need to know. So I officially am just going to assume when I go to these companies like this, if it's on sale for the price that they say they retail it at when they're on Shark Tank, I'm just going to assume they're always pulling this grift. This is just that hill I'm going to die on. Like, probably no one else cares about this but me, but I think it's so frustrating. I hate when companies do this, when they do the little like, oh, it's on sale, but like always, I don't know. That's my pet peeve, and I'm gonna die on this hill. Anyway, we can move on now. They started the business in March of 2021, and we get a nice little sales ramp, which I'm always a fan of. In 2021, they did $107,000 in sale. In 2022, they did $482,000 in sale. And in 2023, they did just under $3.1 million in sales. Unfortunately, we do not get to hear about if they're profitable or not, so who's to say? Kevin then decides to give them some rapid-fire questions about some of their numbers, like customer acquisition cost and some little things like that. They know their numbers like the back of their hand, which impresses Kevin, and he decides to make them an offer. He offers them the $200,000 for 5% like they asked, but of course, since it's Mr. Wonderful, he also has to throw in a royalty, which is $1 per item until he's paid back $1 million, aka 5 times his original investment. Daniel then wants to know what they see as being success for this company, where they want to be 5 to 10 years from now, and the guys say that they can see this being an 8 to 9 figure company because they're not just the one product of the self-tanner, they're trying to build an entire brand. We then have Robert jump in to say he feels like Kevin's already made them a really good offer, and if he was going to make them an offer, it was going to be 25% for the $200,000, and he can tell they're probably not going to be willing to do a number that high, and for that reason, he bows out. Then we have Lori, who just has to jump in, giving such an on-brand Lori line. Love it.
So, you know, cash isn't king, it's queen.
And giving that line, then giving the offer that she proceeds to give them is so funny to me, because her offer is $100,000 cash, then $100,000 as a loan at current market rates. Along with that, she would like 10% equity, and I'm not done, because on top of that, she also wants a royalty of 50 cents per item until she's paid back her original investment. So like, I don't really think cash is king or queen here. It's just not really involved in this conversation very much, to be fair. But we still have Daniel and Mark, who are not out yet. And Daniel starts trying to talk to the guys to really understand what they're wanting. But before he can even get the whole question out or get an answer, Mark does what Mark does best, which is steamroll everybody and offer the guys $200,000 for 10% just straight up, but they need to answer right now. The guys then ask if they can take a minute, which Mark is immediately like, no. And then they're like, well, would you consider partnering up with Lori? And he says no, which like, ouch, because they're the dynamic duo, but whatever. However, even though Mark said no to the guys huddling up, the guys do, after that, take a minute to huddle up, and they then try directly countering Mark to go down to 8%. Of course, he also says no to that as well. But wait, we have Daniel who jumps in and says, I'll make that deal. I'll do the $200,000 for 8%. And we get like no feedback from the entrepreneurs. Instead, Mark starts selling himself more about why he's worth the 10% and all of that. And the focus to just Mark very clearly annoys the other sharks who are interested.
I know it sounds like you have a man crush on Mark.
I'll connect you with dude wife so they can figure out everything.
For me?
And after one more little group huddle session, the bros decide to take the deal with Mark for $200,000 for 10% in a move that I feel like should have surprised no one. It definitely did not surprise me. Final thoughts, first things first, I feel like it's very clear, like Daniel said, they obviously wanted to partner with Mark, which, I mean, makes sense. I mean, no matter what, while Mark is on the show, he is the most, I don't know what the word would even be. I don't want to say the most valuable shark, because, I mean, it kind of depends what you're wanting from a shark, but Mark is the only billionaire on the board, so there's that. Along with that, Mark has invested in other companies, like Dude Wipes, that do kind of similar type things, so it makes a lot of sense for me that they wanted to go with Mark, even though we did have Daniel trying to get that lower equity. It made sense to me that they ended up going with Mark. As far as the product itself, I'm sorry, I think it's really dumb. I think it's really, really dumb. I just hate products like this in any direction, that it's like a thing that already exists, then making it just like weirdly gendered. It's so weird to me. It's such weird marketing, and I hate it. Companies like this, I'm always just like, and it'd be different if they were doing actually something innovative, but like the things they were talking about for their self-tanner, like the formula being clear, that's a thing already in the market. They talked about, oh, well, you can put it on, then go to sleep and wake up with a tan. That's been around forever. I don't know why that even got brought up. And then the clean formula thing, that is also already out there on the market. So it's not like they're doing something truly innovative. And maybe, I don't know, maybe their formula is super great. I wouldn't know. I haven't tried it. Maybe theirs is better than self-tanner on the market, but I just don't see it. I'm sorry. And he says that how he came up with this is he went out there trying every self-tanner on the market and he couldn't find anything that worked for him. And truly and deeply, I just don't believe him. I just truly do not believe that he tried everything out there. I would be shocked. I want to hear the list of things he tried. I want to hear how much he actually looked around because, again, it just doesn't seem like there's anything super special about this self-tanner. So therefore, I think it's kind of dumb. Sorry. I mean, let's be so for real. It's self-tanner. If you are not secure enough in your manhood to just get self-tanner, it's self-tanner. Who cares? Like, it's just truly, it feels embarrassing to me. I feel like if I went over to your house and you were like, oh, I could never use self-tanner before until I found BroGlo, and now I feel secure using self-tanner. I don't know, it just feels a little embarrassing for you. Sorry. And again, to be clear one more time, it's different if somebody came to me and was like, I've tried multiple self-tanners. BroGlo is like the best self-tanner I've ever tried just because of the merit of the product. That is one thing entirely. But if you really felt like you couldn't use self-tanner until BroGlo came around, embarrassing. Truly embarrassing. Look within yourself. Moving on. Our second pitch of the night is TripleLite. Nancy and Ronnie walked into the tank looking for $400,000 for 10% of their 180-degree flashlight. Here it is. As you can see, it has 3 strategically placed light bulbs, making it give off a 180-degree light instead of the normal flashlights that will just shine straight ahead. For their costing, they reference their TL800 model. They say it cost them $6.50 to make. They wholesale it for $15 and it retails for $29.95. However, at least on their website, the price has increased to $34.95. I don't know if that's different in stores, but that's just what I saw. Ronnie invented the idea back in 2012, but it took them about 2 years to really get things going with prototypes and getting patents together. They actually have 5 utility patents and 1 design patent in 27 countries, which is just wild. They say they really started the business in 2014. However, they didn't see major success until 2020. We can see that reflected in their sales because their lifetime sales are $5 million, but $4 million of that just came about in the last 4 years. In 2023, they did a little over $1 million, and in 2024, they were projecting to do $1.5 million. And yes, we have a profitable company. On the $1.5 million they're projecting to do, they plan to profit $318,000. And also, they do not pay themselves. So that is how much they will make before they pay themselves, because they don't do that yet currently.
There's a disconnect here.
Of course, there is a huge time gap that needs an explanation, and they let us know that after they'd been running the business themselves for 2 years and getting a total of about $410,000 in sales, in 2016 they decided to bring on an investor, which ultimately ended up being the worst decision they would make. In 2018, their investor decided to try to sue the couple for full control of their company. However, the couple decided to fight back, and after a few months the person was removed from their company, and now Ronnie and Nancy own 100% of the company again. Robert wants to know why they haven't licensed out their technology to some of the bigger flashlight companies, and they say they were approached by some of the big boys, but that they only wanted to pay them a small royalty, and they refer back to all their patents and all of that about their worth for why they should have been getting more from those companies. Kevin says because of what they endured before with their other investor, he doesn't want control of their company. So he decides to begin his offer saying he'll give them the $400,000, but he wants 49%.
Oh, hell no.
Excuse me, do you want to hear the offer?
No.
And then
Haven't they suffered enough?
But Kevin's not the only shark interested. Daniel also decides to make them an offer, which he says is non-negotiable, and that is $400,000 for 25%. Robert then tries to jump in, saying it worries him that this hasn't been picked up by a larger company for a licensing deal or something yet, and he's worried that there's more to the story, and he's out. However, this gets completely ignored and steamrolled over, because as Robert is trying to say this, Lori walks over to Mark so they can have a little huddle up, and Daniel is obviously very aware that they are a force to be reckoned with, and just kind of interrupts Robert to try and get this deal done with the couple. He goes as far as to go down there to try to be like, yes, the deal is done. And while the couple says that Daniel is one of their top picks, it's very clear that they want to hear from the dynamic duo that is Lori and Mark. Then Lori and Mark give their offer, which is $400,000 for 25%, aka the exact same deal as Daniel, but they get 2 sharks for the price of 1. But Daniel is not going down without a fight. This is a common theme this episode for Daniel, and he starts talking about that sometimes it's not good to have 2 sharks. Sometimes it can create more issues, which honestly can be a valid argument. However, this is probably the worst pairing to make this argument about, because Mark and Lori love working together. So I respect the hustle, Daniel, but probably the worst pair to try to make this argument about. All this talk, of course, gets Lori and Mark to start pitching themselves, and finally the entrepreneurs decide to try to counter, asking if either offer will consider lowering the equity to 20%. Lori and Mark decline, again stating why they're worth the 25%, but Daniel jumps in and says he'll do it at the 20% if they say yes right now. But that's not all, because Robert hears this and says he'll go in with Daniel on the 20%, meaning they are giving the same 2-for-1 deal at a lower percentage than Mark and Lori. And usually in a case like this, you would see the entrepreneurs automatically say yes, and that's what you might be thinking, but you would be wrong, because after all of that, they thank Daniel and Robert for the offer, but they decide to go with Mark and Lori with the deal for $400,000 for 25%. If you have seen any of my other videos, you might know what I'm going to say next, which is I like this product simply because it is simple. It solves a problem. it's just a good, normal product. I do want to see more of this. I saw a lot of people calling it like an infomercial product. Yeah. And, like, I don't know why people are using that as an insult. Those are some of the things I want to see more of on Shark Tank. Like, arguably, Scrub Daddy. Definitely an as-seen on TV product. I mean, like... However, I am with Robert. The time frame does weird me out. I was even kind of surprised that he decided to kind of jump in with Daniel at the last minute there, but I wonder if part of him was kind of like, well, we'll have the due diligence process. If we see that there's weird stuff with the time frame, I can back out. I don't know. I would definitely want some more information about what all was going on there, what exactly happened with that investor. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. I just feel like there would need to be some more clarity before I invested my money. But again, that's why they do have their due diligence time after they make the deals on the show. So there it is. Then as far as them picking Mark and Lori over Daniel and Robert, it's just hard. It's hard to go against Mark and Lori. They are like a known dynamic duo in Shark Tank, so people too tend to gravitate toward them. But poor Daniel is fighting for his life this episode. And poor Robert, I feel like, is always fighting for his life every season. I always feel so bad for him multiple times a season because I feel like people sleep on Robert, and it's sad. But at the same time, I get it. Like... I might do the same thing just because I'm biased. I love Robert though too. It would be hard. But Mark and Lori, it's just, oh. Our third pitch of the night is Hiccup. Christina walked into the tank looking for $200,000 for 10% of her reusable silicone cups that are made to replace the paper cups at marathons and races. Like I said, it's these silicone cups. Honestly, there's not a lot to see here because, like, that's the business. Just these cups. So this is all I have for you on that front. How the business works is she rents out these cups to marathons, then she delivers them, they use them, she takes them back, washes them, and then uses them again for future races. She charges 15 cents per cup to rent them out, and she rents them out by the thousands. And then after you've rented 10,000 cups, the price drops to 10 cents per cup on the preceding thousands of orders of cups. The most cups she's ever rented out to a race was 50,000 cups, which equates to $6,500 in revenue. This leads us to her sales. The only number we get is that in 2023, she did $67,000 in sales. Again, we don't really get any other info than that, like if they're profitable, what they were on track to do for 2024. So I'm sorry, that's all I have for you. That's the second time I've had to say this. This pitch gets more entertaining. I have other things for you, just not really numbers or products to show you, okay? As usual, I'm not going to get into her backstory or how she came up with the idea, but she does deliver this one line that I just have to share with y'all.
So at the time, I worked on a tugboat and I watched a lot of Shark Tanks.
Incredible. Then Kevin decides to ask her why she hasn't gone to any big companies to get them to sponsor the cups, like put their logos on them in exchange for money. And she gives one of the funniest responses to a question I think I've ever heard.
Because I've honestly been kind of busy washing the cups.
That's the answer?
That's
You've
the
been
answer,
busy?
yes.
Wait,
Incredible. Of course, this leads us to the question of who's all on her team, and unsurprising from the previous answer, it is all just her doing everything. Daniel then starts to back up Mr. Wonderful's point, saying that he thinks their best move would be to look for a sponsor for the cups. Then, for a reason that is beyond my understanding, we get this story from Robert about how he had a bet with a friend that he could run a marathon without training for it, and obviously it did not go very well, and he ended up hitchhiking in the desert, and the guy was like, "Oh, aren't you the guy from Shark Tank?" And like, hilarious, funny little story from Robert. I enjoyed it because I always love some Robert time, but it felt so random for the editors to leave this in. There was just like no point to it. That was it. That was just a story Robert wanted to tell, and I love that for him. After his story time has concluded, Robert goes on to say that he doesn't see the possibility for investment in this because he doesn't see how this is going to be able to scale into a big enough company to take on an investor. And with that, he's out. Then we have Lori, who thinks it's admirable what she's doing for the environment, but ultimately it's not the business for her, and she's out. Daniel then gives us this super sentimental moment, talking about how he loves being on Shark Tank to be able to, see these people come up with great solutions and ideas for things, and how beautiful it is to witness, but ultimately, like Robert, he just doesn't see this as a very scalable business, and he doesn't really see how he can contribute, so he's out, but he's very grateful to have been here with her.
Let me interpret that for you. Hiccup sucks.
Then there's Kevin, who I haven't seen him like this in a minute, but Kevin is 100% adamant that she just needs to close this business down, walk away from it, and pursue other talents. He feels like there is no hope for the business, and it sucks. I don't feel like I've seen him this adamant like that in quite a while. Wild. Then we have good guy Mark try to swoop in and lift her spirit, saying there's definitely a need for this business. However, he pulls that famous Lori line of, it's a great business for you, but not investable for me. He says it's a business that will grow at a steady pace for her, but he's not going to be able to invest, and ultimately that means Christina leaves the tank without a deal. Of course, with how on one Kevin was about this business, we can't leave the pitch without getting a last little closing line from him.
I think at the end of the day, you'll be just like Robert, hitchhiking in the middle of the desert.
Oh my God, Kevin.
Don't
That
listen
is
to him.
so
I
mean.
tell you to stop being a jerk.
Ultimately, I agree with the other sharks that aren't Kevin. Number one, I do think this can be a great business for her. I also think maybe there is somebody else in the world who she could find to invest in it if she really feels like she needs an investor. But at the end of the day, like Mark was saying, I think this can be a steady, good business for her. I also agree with the idea of maybe trying to find a sponsor to put their logo on the cup. I think that'd be a great extra way to be making money in the business. So I am not on Kevin's side that she needs to just like give it up. However, I will caveat that to say we didn't get a lot of information about sales. We didn't get any information about profitability. So there could be information I am missing that would make me agree with Kevin that she needs to shut it down. But from what we saw, I don't think she needs to do that. They started the business in like 2020. I checked on their website, and it seems to be growing well from looking at like the number of races they have and things like that. Like, I think this is a good business for her. I have said that line so many times now, I'm going to turn into Lori. I'm going to be like Beetlejuice it. Of course, her biggest hurdle is always going to be the struggle of the price difference between paper cups and her reusable cups. She was saying, hers are 15 cents per cup, and she said usually paper cups would be around 7 cents. So that makes a very big deal when you're ordering by the thousands and thousands and thousands. And I'm not a runner or a marathoner, but in my mind, I feel like there's a pretty good crossover of people who care about the environment and who like to do those sort of outdoor racing activities. So I could see why races might want to look into trying to do something like this, promote that they do it, they get the whole environmentally friendly thing going. So, I think this is something that could work. Like the shark said, maybe it'll never be a crazy huge business, but it can be something that she can live off of and she can feel good that she's doing something for the environment. Of course, there are the arguments I saw people making out there, which are fair and valid arguments about like, is it actually more environmentally friendly than maybe other options? Because like what the cups are made of and the water to wash them. I'm going to be real with y'all. I have a theater degree. I don't have like an environmental science degree. So I don't know. I don't know. I know those arguments are out there, and I'm just giving you that information so you can do your own research if you like. I do know that after washing the cups got brought up so much, I did have to look into it because I was like, what is this girl, like, what is she doing? Like, what is the process for washing these cups? Luckily, they do have an FAQ where she goes over it. Pretty much, they have now 2. So it seems like she is growing and thriving since being in the tank, because in the tank, she said it was just her. Now it says they have 2 human dishwashers at commercial dishwashing stations washing these cups. So I did assume it was probably a commercial dishwasher, but I was concerned. On top of that, I have learned that they have their own machine that they've built, and it's patent pending, that washes 1,500 cups per cycle and only uses 30 gallons of water. Now, if they had had that when they went into the tank, I bet that would have made the deal more enticing, because this is another layer of something that can help bring revenue into the business if they can start selling these kind of commercial washers. Also, while I was perusing their FAQ, I came across this, which I will read aloud. Have you thought about going on Shark Tank? Yes, but we believe that we can grow just as big by treating every customer, runner, and employee well. Plus, Christina, the founder, would never be able to handle being badgered by Mr. Wonderful or Mark Cuban. That's just so funny to me. I love that that's on their FAQ. I love that she hasn't changed it since being on the show. Hilarious. She seems so funny, honestly. I would love to meet her. Like, she gives me good vibes, if I'm gonna be real. On that same note, I am dying to know whether she applied for Shark Tank or whether she was recruited. All signs would lead me to recruited, just from, like, how she was during the pitch, from what we saw, and then also from that FAQ. And it's always just so interesting to me to see the businesses that, like, applied, and, like, wanted to be on it, and then the businesses that are recruited, they definitely give different energies, even if it's subtle. They always, I feel like, do. Our fourth and final pitch of the night is PhoLicious. Joseph and An walked into the tank looking for $500,000 for 10% of their instant pho. Here's what it looks like. It comes with the noodles, toppings, and a seasoning packet to make instant pho right at home. If you don't know what pho is, that's okay, because me and Wikipedia will let you know. Pho is a Vietnamese soup dish consisting of broth, rice noodles, herbs, and meat, usually beef and sometimes chicken. It is also delicious. I had a stint in college where that was all I wanted to eat all the time. Yeah, good time for me, because I was also living in a place that had multiple pho places near me. The good days. Anyway, each bowl cost them $1.75 to make. They wholesale it for $3.89, and then they say it retails in stores for $5.48. They distinctly said in stores, and I think that would be because I went on their website and I saw on there they come in a 4-pack for $25, making each of them about $6.25. They've been in business since May of 2021, and once again we get a nice little sales ramp. In 2021, they were only doing D2C, and they sold $68,000 in sales. 2022, $438,000, 2023, $2.1 million, and in 2024, they were projecting to end the year between $5 and $6 million. And on top of that, we do have a profitable company. They said they were profitable as of the end of 2023, and so far in 2024, they had profited $390,000. After hearing that incredible jump in sales, Lori wants to know if part of the reasoning for that is because they got into a major retailer, and the answer is yes. They got into Sam's Club and Walmart, and they were actually recently informed by Sam's Club that they were going to be added to even more of their stores. Kevin then wants to know who's doing their distribution, and they let us know that they do all their own manufacturing and distribution in a 47,000 square foot food manufacturing facility and warehouse that they own. From what I understand and how they were explaining it, they lease the building that it's in, but they own all of the equipment and the things inside.
Wait, this is really interesting. You started from scratch and went into manufacturing yourself from scratch?
Of course, finding this out makes Daniel want to know what their background is, and they respond to this by talking about how they came up with the product, which is 100% not what Daniel was asking, but that's okay because Lori comes in to clear it up, saying, okay, but after you came up with the idea, how did you get the money for it? And they let us know that they decided not to take on any investors. They wanted to do it all themselves. And their choice was to sell their house and move them, their 2 kids, and their 2 dogs into a camper for 2 years.
Yeah.
So did they say, Mommy, what the hell are we doing?
From the sale of their house, they got $250,000, and at first they were going to put that into a savings for a reserve in case things didn't work out, but business started to pick up so quickly that they ended up putting all of the money into the business. Included in that was moving to Houston to be in the bigger facility that they're currently in.
Which was easy to move in a camper, we just went.
And at this point, Kevin's interest is completely piqued. His biggest idea is he wants to help them get into the retailers they're not currently in because he has relationships with those retailers. He says if they can sell out a Walmart, he can get them into places like Costco and Target. That leads Lori to ask how much they're selling per week in Walmart, and they let us know that it's about 30 bowls per week her flavor across all stores. Kevin then wants to know if they would be open to working with a commercial kitchen or if they feel like they need to continue to control the manufacturing. And Mark answers with kind of what I was thinking, which is they're kind of all in on the manufacturing it themselves at this point. It's not really room for backing out. And even with that answer, Kevin is interested and decides to make them an offer for the $500,000 for 20%. But he is not the only shark interested because Daniel immediately jumps in saying he will match Kevin's offer. After that, the other sharks start clearing the deck. First, we have Lori jumping in saying she likes the products and thinks they've been given 2 good offers, so she's out. Then we have Robert, who starts out what he wants to say in the most on-brand Robert way.
I've never had pho. So fun to say.
Truly, just so funny. He thinks the product is incredible, but that the other 2 sharks have made better offers than he was going to make, and he steps out. Last, we have Mark, who's worried about the shelf space comparison, especially considering they're in price competitive stores, as he calls them. There's a concern that if a cheaper one comes out that maybe is not exactly as good, but good enough, people will go to that. And so because of that, it's too limited and he goes out. They say both sharks are great and they would be incredibly happy to work with either of them, but then directly only ask Daniel if he'd be willing to go down to 12%. Daniel declines, talking about the value him and his team will be able to add to their business, and hearing all of that, Kevin decides to jump in and say that he'll lower his equity to 15%, so not quite all the way down to 12, but lower. And for the 4th and final time this episode, Daniel is fighting for his life, saying why he's worth the 20% and selling himself, but once again, his efforts fall short, and they decide to make the deal with Kevin for $500,000 for 15%.
Shocking!
I'm looking forward
Oh my
to working with
gosh!
you guys.
Robert is just so funny. That reaction actually killed me. It was so funny. I love that he has the bowl in his hand too, like he was obviously just eating. Hilarious. Love to see it. And with that, we also get a great little funny ending of this episode.
Daniel, are you shocked that they went with
I am shocked.
Kevin
But
instead of all your
You know what's the
experience?
lesson? Nobody should be overconfident.
First things first that I gotta say, poor Daniel Lubinsky was beaten down this episode. I hope we're getting some Daniel wins in the near future, because honestly, that was rough to watch. Like, Shark Tank editors, we couldn't have maybe put some of those products in different episodes. I don't know, it was hard. So automatically, I love stuff like this. Huge ramen fan. I'm also a huge fan of those Annie Chun noodle bowls that are out there, and I've even tried their version of a little instant pho. However, I made it wrong because I wasn't paying attention, so I cannot judge if it was good or not. But I am planning to try it again soon, partially because I want to, but also because I bought this stuff. I bought PhoLicious, and I plan to try both out to kind of see the differences, and you can expect a review video in the near future. I literally just ordered it last night, so I don't know when it'll get here, but expect for that. While I thought Robert's reaction was hilarious and I loved it, I honestly wasn't necessarily super surprised they went with Kevin. I feel like they feel pretty confident in their business overall and were more concerned with that equity percentage and wanting to hold on to as much as possible. So really, at the end of the day, it wasn't shocking that they picked Kevin, and I hope it's good. I hope it's good, obviously, because I ordered it. So again, I'll let y'all know once we have gotten to try it. And that is a wrap on Shark Tank Season 16, Episode 8. As always, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it down below. If you like reality TV, Shark Tank recaps, Shark Tank product reviews, any and all of that, maybe check out the channel and subscribe. It's a good time over here. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before my 3-year anniversary at the end of the year. So if you want to help me with that, I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts, feelings, opinions, comments, all that and more down below. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.